Hey guys, Danan here, General Manager at Golden Guardians. I'm also here with Nick Smith. You guys know him as Inero. He's our LCS head coach. We're going to take a minute. You can kind of see we're setting up our new office, getting excited, ramping up this offseason. But I'm going to take some time to introduce you to our new LCS and Academy rosters that we're kind of rolling out over the next week. So, LCS roster, let's just kick it right top lane. Kevin Yarnell, that is Hauntzer. You guys formerly know him of Team Solo Mid. He's coming on board, very excited. Next up, we have, of course, the one, the only, Juan Garcia, Contractz. You guys know him from last year, we're keeping him on. We're doing something really interesting. In mid lane, I don't think a lot of people were expecting. We've signed on Henrik Hansen, that is Froggen. He's actually been here in North America for quite a while now, but you've seen him probably more on Twitch than you've seen him on the LCS stage in 2018. We're bringing him back for 2019. Looking down on the bot lane, we have Chen, so that's Deftly. You guys know him as the young up-and-coming AD carry that everyone's been really excited about. We're going to look to do a bit more and enabling him by signing this next gentleman who just got back from Worlds, Joo-Sun Kim, that is Olleh. Really excited to be able to have such like a super dynamic, super young, super motivated bot lane on the LCS roster.
I think our whole team is filled with guys that may have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, to be honest. We've got Froggen, we've got Hauntzer, we've got Olleh. All of those guys are coming off of teams that ultimately decided they didn't want them and that they thought someone else is better. Obviously, all those guys are going to want to prove that those people were wrong. So ultimately, their goal is to win and just probably rub it in their face a little bit that they went further than they did. It's the same thing that happened to Doublelift when he left TSM or got removed from TSM. Joined Team Liquid, beat everyone. Obviously, that's got to feel good to him. I think we've got 3 guys that obviously feel the exact same way and want to do the same thing. And I know for me personally, I want to do the exact same thing too. So.
And then for Golden Guardians Academy on that front, that roster right now has panned out, looking really solid. We're retaining Shao, that's Zig, you know him from last year. He's holding down top lane for us. When we jump to the jungle, you're going to see a familiar face that hasn't been at Golden Guardians before though, Mr. Anthony Barkhovtsev. That's hard, for those of you who know him from his Echo Fox days, formerly also Cloud9. Mid lane is something new, something exciting. We're going young. We're trying to, build hopefully the next, mid lane North American All-Star in Palafox. His name, Cristian Palafox. That is his last name. Jumping into our bot lane, we are retaining Benjamin DeMunck. That's Benji, as you guys know him, formerly Laud. And then, of course, his support is also staying on Jamie Gallagher. That is Sheep. We're super excited to be able to keep those 2 veterans down there kind of holding down bot lane while we have those like younger players in mid-jungle.
When we're looking at our team and looking at guys that we're even potentially picking up, those culture aspects are really huge. So when we're actually talking to players and trying to figure out things about them, it's not all game related. Being great at the game is obviously important, but we really want to know what type of person they are, what their personality is like, and how that's going to mesh with the other people that we're looking at so we can have the best culture possible in our team.
So to speak about how we're kind of operating our whole roster, obviously you have 10 players. There is the LCS designated players, Academy designated players. For us, it's not quite as simple as just having 2 separate rosters. It really is a bit of a mold. We've built out a 10-man system that is kind of meant to ebb and flow and interact with each other in a way that can better help both parties. The Academy team isn't really just there to facilitate the growth of the LCS team. At the same time, obviously the LCS team isn't there just to facilitate the growth of the Academy team. We're kind of taking up some initiatives right now, some new hires. One of the first things we're doing to kind of bridge the disconnect that we think we see with how teams operate right now is called a 2-way player coach. This is something a little bit mirrored from the NBA where there are players that have the capacity to play in both the NBA and the G League. And they can kind of bounce back and forth at certain times and put games in on both teams. It's a little bit different in League of Legends esports where you actually can do that across the board. All 10 players are fully flexible to jump between leagues within 24 hours of each other. Like you can bounce around. So it's really important for us to be able to manage basically that relationship between the two teams. And this two-way player coach, their role is very centrally focused around that concept. So when the LCS team is doing fine, when we're successful, when we're really on our streak, this two-way player coach is actually in position to mostly be an LCS assistant coach. They're gonna look to support Nick however they can. They're gonna be really on the fly working with each of the LCS players to help better elevate their gameplay. But at the same time, when the team struggles, when they hit a wall, when there's like a strategical issue that they can't quite leap over, this two-way player coach can then be tasked by Nick, which I'm sure he'll speak to in a moment, to then work with the academy teams. Step down, go look at our younger players, go look at maybe our veterans on the academy roster that have or are in position to really climb back into the LCS, and work with them very directly. Spend 2-3 weeks with these players and prepare them for the opportunity to hop back on, back onto LCS or to get their first opportunity in a way that's helpful to the LCS team without doing too much damage to the academy roster.
Our biggest goal with it was to have a very specific job description so that it's very clear what people's responsibilities are in the team, and we have very clear goals for those people to accomplish. We wanted to move away from as we moved away from the traditional general manager position in the team, we wanted to move away from the traditional assistant coach role, traditional analyst role in the team, and have very specific things that we want them to do. So I'm going to be working very close to the two-way player coach, and although their position is very flexible depending on the team's needs, their goals themselves are pretty laid out. The fact that we want them to be there to be the main focus of developing our players from academy players to LCS players over time. Even if it's not this year, it's very much his job that over the course of the few years, we're going to expect that we will have academy guys move into LCS. That's the whole point of the development league, and we very much plan to be using that to its fullest extent. So having someone in that role that's working with the LCS team constantly, sees what the mini culture of that team is like, and is trying to help these players kind of adapt to that and to catch up to what they're missing, knowledge-wise, just any minor in-game things that there are differences that exist. So having someone specifically there to do that was extremely important and was a big position that we spoke about and knew was necessary to actually have a strong development system and strong core of staff.
The relationship between Nick and I is fantastic. It's really interesting, really unique. It's not actually that old. We didn't actually link up professionally until probably just under 2-3 months ago. It was the later half of the 2018 summer split where I think he had just left Echo Fox and I was at the LCS. I was still paying attention, working with Cloud9. And I was kind of just, really intrigued, kind of asking questions, trying to understand kind of what drove him and kind of what built out his initiative, because when it comes to esport coaching, it's always felt a little underwhelming across the board. I have a lot of perspective across 12 different games. When I left Cloud9, I was overseeing around 16 different teams. And I really hadn't been super motivated all the time whenever I was kind of deep diving into esports coaching and trying to see if it was as kind of wholesome as you might hope. But talking to Nick, I was really excited because through those conversations, I got a little bit more re-energized, excited about talking esports coaching, just better understanding the space and kind of what they're supposed to do and how they're supposed to cover it. And then basically through that relationship, when I eventually did step away from Cloud9, I saw a really unique opportunity where I could take all the stuff that I learned and kind of build on that relationship at Golden Guardians.
For me, the biggest thing about joining Golden Guardians was actually Danan. So I've really wanted to work with a management team that's on the same page as me, and just somewhere where we're all in alignment, we all want the exact same thing, and we're all looking at it in a similar enough way that it's really easy to work with and we have the same goals. Having that here was just the biggest thing drawing me, and I was really happy that opportunity opened up and was just completely on board from day one. Picking up these guys, we had a really rough idea of what the team identity was going to be with the ones that we're going after. As everything happens, things are going to be different than what we're expecting. We're definitely prepared for that. So the first few days of practice, and especially this first month of December leading up to Christmas break, there's going to be a whole lot of practicing to see what that identity is really going to shape up to be and directing the actual practice time towards developing that and seeing what's most ideal for us and where we play most comfortably around. And then building up the like foundation for our communication. These guys are all coming from different backgrounds, different teams. Their communication that they're used to is going to be vastly different, I'm sure. So that's a big target for me in the first few weeks, is to figure out how we're talking to each other, what's the most efficient way to get that going, and make sure that's cleared up as much as possible before the actual like real practice begins in January, where all the teams are back and we're really preparing for that first week.
So with regards to the predictions that everyone kind of throws up as we get closer towards the holiday season, as we start hitting that like almost New Year's time, we definitely, I would say we feed into some of the predictions, but the predictions we feed into are obviously our players. Like we have to feed off the hype and the motivation that our players are feeling. Right now everyone's super excited across the board. You can really ask any of our players and that they really understand this is going to be a whole new opportunity for them. 2019 Golden Guardians, we're really looking to hit the ground running, and I think you can kind of feel that across the board.